These Ipswich Town players are defying the odds.
Hello and welcome back to TWTV. As you can see, we're at Anfield and we are gymless today, so it's just Phil and myself. We're here to dissect the 4-1 defeat to Liverpool. Phil, where do we begin on that one?
Well, I suppose the last time I came in the league we lost 5-0, so there's obviously an improvement, and last week we lost 6-0. So yeah, I think it's an interesting game to come into, isn't it? You sort of want to come through unscathed as much as anything else, because I don't think anyone gave us much of a hope of getting anything out of the game. When you can sometimes, as we've seen, Chelsea the other week. But I think Liverpool are a level above teams like that, and and that's how it proved, really, didn't it? From the start, they were in control. They were in no hurry. They didn't force the game. They just worked the ball around, sort of prodded and probed, and worked themselves chances, and took those chances. And I think they benefited from some pretty wobbly defending from Town.
Yeah, I mean, the 3 goals, you can kind of pick them apart individually. In the first half, that is Dominic Szoboszlai with the first. It was quite a nice finish, but possibly went through too easily. The second goal was Salah's goal at the back post. Could Leif Davis be in a better position to prevent it when the cross has gone in towards him? And then what's the third one? Cody Gakpo with the rebound one, wasn't it? The original cross, I think Szoboszlai was in way too much space, almost inside the 6-yard box.
And the fourth one, you could say much the same about.
And the fourth goal, he was onside and he created the space for the header. But
Trent was no pressure on Trent at all.
No,
for that as well.
For the cross, but in terms of the positives, let's pick those out. Jacob Greaves' goal at the end, first Premier League goal, first Ipswich Town goal for him, and a nice moment for the travelling fans.
Yeah. I think that's yes. I think it's interesting. Kieran's comments in the presser afterwards that it was a difficult first half, but a frustrating one, because although they'd had all the ball and were well in control, there weren't huge numbers of chances, and the chances they did get were preventable because they were from errors, as you say. The first one, there's a lot of space. Second one, Leif Davis it allowed Salah to peel off him too easily, but it emerged afterwards that Leif Davis has been ill, and it was touch and go whether he'd start anyway, and so it wasn't a surprise when he went off at half time. So perhaps you can forgive him for that. I think first time he's been substituted all season in the Premier League, so no one has now played every single minute in the Premier League. But yeah, it's just comfortable, wasn't it? I think we kind of feared another game like last week where it got away from us completely, and I don't think it ever got away from us completely. And actually, the longer the game went on and Liverpool made changes and we made changes, and actually the last 10-15 minutes we did all right in that, and we might have scored another goal. George Hurst had a header that was well saved. So yeah, I think we came out of it relatively unscathed. I think if it's been another 6-0, then I think
I agree. It was far better than last weekend in that sense. There was the fear, particularly maybe at half time when it was 3-0, that it could trend in that direction.
Seeing as we'd conceded 3 goals in 3 halves in a row.
But the second half was better. Like you say, Liverpool took their foot off the gas a bit. But we had a spell towards the end of the game leading up to the goal where maybe saying a goal was coming is perhaps giving it a bit too much credit. But we certainly had a spell. You mentioned the George Hurst chance where we were creating a couple of opportunities that, if you were to compare it to, say, the Arsenal game just before Christmas, quite a similar kind of away ground to go to, and while it was only the one goal that we lost by there, created absolutely nothing going forward.
Yeah.
There was far more today. And just to touch on the actual players that started, so there were 5 changes to the team.
Yeah.
Good to see Axel Tuanzebe come back into start, his first start for a couple of months. We saw Jaden Philogene make his first start, looked fairly anonymous, if we're honest with ourselves. I don't know if you agree with that one.
Yeah, Kieran was positive about his when he spoke about him after the game, but I think it's a very difficult game anyway, isn't it? And if you're coming into a team that you've not played with before, then it probably makes it harder. It surprised me in a way that he started Philogene so early in a game like this, but perhaps he just thought that it was an opportunity for him. But it's Philogene, and then the other changes were
Jacob Greaves came in. He got the goal. We've spoken about that one. Wes Burns came in on the right. He looks like he's going to be out for quite a long time.
Yes, he does. It's
with
unfortunate.
A troublesome knee problem that saw him come off on the stretcher. And there was another change in there in midfield. Calvin Phillips starting in midfield in for Jens Kajista, who I think his workload is being managed a bit at the moment.
This appears to be that, and you do wonder whether he was left out this week. He's played a lot of games recently, hasn't he?
Has,
yeah. But whether he's been left out this week, because perhaps he might start next week against Southampton, which, in the grand scheme of things,
it's probably a bigger game.
It's a bigger
season.
game for Town. Yeah. It might be a bigger game to in world football, but I think Ipswich Southampton is a very much a must-win game for Town. So I think that was probably an eye on that, and then in the. I can't think who else came in there.
That was the 5.
Hutchinson and then Delap up front, wasn't it?
But in terms of the actual personnel, one that I think we should touch on is Julio Enciso. Came on off the bench, made an instant impact with getting booked
on Endo.
After about a minute of coming on.
But it was enthusiasam, wasn't it? I think that's what it was. He just wanted to get on the ball, and he wanted
to make an impression, and
he did quite literally on the lad Endo. Yeah,
and then he got the assist for the goal.
He did with a terrific corner.
The corner ball. So, I'm sure we'll see more of him in kind of better patches than just 10 minutes at Anfield when we're 4-0 down. But
he was involved in the move that led to George Hurst's header as well, wasn't he? He started that out, swept it wide, showed a bit of vision, didn't he? And so I thought a promising game from him. Very positive. He also sort of tried to get the crowd going a bit, didn't he? And so it's kind of one of those where you sort of look at it. I think it could have been worse. I think we were anticipating a defeat. 4-1, perhaps. I don't know. It always sounds kind of bad when it's 4, but I don't. Against this sort of level of Liverpool at the moment, they are probably the outstanding team in Europe at the moment.
Yeah.
So
I'd go along with that.
Top of the Premier League, top of the Champions League.
Yeah.
So if I think it would have been dispiriting if the result had been like it was last week against Manchester City, and I think the fact that we kind of in the latter stages could have scored 1, could have got 2, and I think most people go home thinking, well, that's not a bad showing overall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just before we close out, mention the Southampton game. Obviously a big one in the kind of battle for survival. Some of our survival rivals that I know is a segment that's liked on the show. Everton won again today, so they've opened up a 7-point gap.
Which is quite a long way, isn't it?
It is quite a long way. So Wolves were beaten by Arsenal, which was helpful, of course. Still only goal difference separates us and Wolves. Do you feel like it's 2 from us, Leicester and Wolves? Do you feel like that's how it's trending?
I think it's almost certainly looking like that. I mean, the only sort of, well, I think 7 points you said, didn't you? 7 points is sort of quite.
For a team that's won 16 all season, 7 points is
Exactly.
It's a big gap.
Yeah.
It's a big gap.
So on the one hand, you could say that it's a big gap because the teams haven't picked up huge numbers of points, and yet at the same time, the teams have to play one another, and then it's only kind of another win before it's only 1 point. So, but I do think overall, because of the fact that teams are not picking up points, and Everton have picked up decent results. Sort of not consistently, as in week in, week out, but they're able to pick up a result every now and then, like drawing with Arsenal and results like that, and then coming to when they played us, they were pretty comfortable against us. So I think they'll probably have too much to get involved in it at the end of the season. So it does look like, I think everyone kind of counts Southampton as all but already down, but which isn't to say there won't be a challenge next week. But at the same time, I think yes, Leicester, Ipswich, Wolves. I think we've kind of we've got to look at to outperform those teams, and I think we'll probably be all right. But I don't really see anyone else getting involved in it now.
Yeah, and that brings us on to next weekend. Probably the biggest game of the season so far.
Yes.
Is it a must-win? That's kind of the question. It's certainly the best opportunity that we've had for a win for a long time. I think that's one way of looking at it. I'm sure Portman Road will need to be bouncing, and we could be sitting here this time next week at the bottom three. So
and points clear.
That's what you've got to look at it, and I'm sure. Yeah. The players will be looking at it as just another 3 points up for grabs like any other game. But I'm sure deep down they know it's a big opportunity next week.
It is.
And we will see you at Portman Road next weekend for that big game.